Welcome to the Family Beacon podcast from Minnesota Family Council with hosts Grace Evans and Moses Brattrud. Stay informed on the top stories on life, family, and religious freedom. Get the facts, stand for truth. Hello and welcome back to the Family Beacon podcast. I'm Grace Evans. I'm here with Moses Brattrud. So glad that you are tuning in here this week. I just want to remind you really fast, if you like this podcast, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Please share this podcast with your family and friends. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post podcasts, we post exclusive clips, as well as other videos in our Unwoke series. So please spread the word about this podcast. It's been amazing to see it grow over the past few months. And we love to continue that and just continue spreading the truth about the pro-life movement, religious freedom, and family here in the state of Minnesota. Yes. That being said, Moses, we had the biggest week here at Minnesota Family Council of the entire year and in recent memory. I don't remember a week since I've worked here where we've done this much. The last time I think was the Minnesota for Marriage campaign, which is way back in 2011, 2012. That was years ago. I mean, we did so much, you guys, and we just want to update you a little bit on this. And then we're going to talk about a really terrible thing that happened in front of the Supreme Court. Women taking abortion pills in front of the Supreme Court, and then we'll also do a recap of Dobbs v. Jackson since that's what's on everyone's hearts and minds. First of all, though, I want to talk a little bit about this pro-life rally that Moses and I attended. It was led by Pro-Life Action Ministries. Moses was one of the speakers, and I just want you to recap kind of what happened. If you listened to the podcast last week, you heard his great speech. He didn't want to post it originally, but I convinced him because I thought it was so good, and he completely ad-libbed it. He had this whole thing written out. I looked at it and I said, "You'll be fine." He went up, he didn't even look at it, and he said something different, and it ended up being great. So Moses, tell us a little bit about the pro-life rally that happened last week.
Sure, yeah. So we're really grateful for our friends at Pro-Life Action Ministries. That is an incredible ministry to support. They're outside of abortion clinics every day, praying and working with women, and they have saved thousands of babies in the 30 or 40 years that they've been operational, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see. Brian Gibson is their executive director. And so they invited us to come speak, and there was about 100 pro-life activists, and there were a lot of great speakers from other pro-life groups like Students for Life, and then I had written out some remarks, and as Grace said, I wasn't super thrilled with them. I showed them to Grace, and she's like, "Yeah, this is fine." But then I just went up there and I'm like, you know what? I need to talk about what's happening right now. I need to talk about what's going to happen in Minnesota if and when Roe v. Wade is overturned. So that's what I ended up talking about. I felt like the reception was good.
It was great, yeah.
And providentially, KSTP, the local CBS News affiliate, was there, and they had a camera guy, and so I spoke with him about our hopes and plans for pro-life Minnesota, and that aired that evening. So that was really cool, great opportunity. And then
also Moses, I love they didn't take that much of the interview, but the clip that they did take from that interview was we want to make abortion not only illegal but unthinkable.
Yes.
And I love that they took that quote specifically and they had that video blasted out. They put that in one of their articles.
Yeah.
That's a really good quote.
It's huge. Yeah, we need that message to get out because it the pro-abortion movement is stuck on this repeat track where they just say pro-lifers hate women, pro-lifers hate women, pro-lifers hate women, and abortion is liberation, and that's just utterly, completely false. The pro-life movement cares about women, loves them, wants to give them dignity, care, financial support, housing support, whatever they need, so that they can raise their baby or give that baby up for adoption and make that process as easy as possible.
Exactly. When was the last time that you heard of a pro-abortion activist doing something that would help pregnant women? That's an
excellent point. Yeah. People have called Planned Parenthood and been like, do you have funds to help me buy baby formula and diapers? No. We only help you if you make the other choice.
And for every one adoption referral that Planned Parenthood does, which is very rare, they do 10 abortions.
Wow.
That's the statistics, which is crazy. That's according to their 2019 report.
Yeah, and so and in fact, even in the aftermath of the case last week at the Supreme Court, you had people just coming out and attacking adoption because Justice Barrett mentioned it on the court, which I will talk about later.
Yeah.
So that was one thing, not the most important thing that went on with MFC last week. We had our CEO, John Hellenberger, was interviewed by Craig DeRoche of Family Policy Alliance. On the steps of SCOTUS, and John and Renee Carlson of True North Legal, our legal arm.
Renee did great things,
Renee did
Moses.
Amazingly.
So she met with Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence.
Yes, at a private fundraiser.
And there's this video, which we'll roll the clip in a few seconds, but basically she's meeting with Pence, and she's talking to him, and she's saying, I really appreciate how you talked about how abortion not only impacts children, but also culture and women. And he goes, yeah, I got that from your brief. Which is amazing. And Renee's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, kudos to former Vice President Pence, because he was one of the most prominent figures who were in Washington last week and joining in with pro-life activists and celebrating the work of the state of Mississippi. They did an amazing job at the Supreme Court, which we'll talk about. And all the people, like all the pro-life activists like Marjorie Danifelser of SBA List, and Renee Carlson of our own True North Legal organization, who submitted briefs to the Supreme Court, who are helping make this case. They helped bring this case to the Supreme Court. They helped give the justices the arguments they need to fight against Roe v. Wade. That's what our brief was an attempt to do. And so that was the event was a celebration of people like Renee. And Renee, she got a little medal, which is so cool. So another thing that happened last week was more on the home front. Our LEAD program opened registration. So our LEAD program will be July 24th to 29th, 2022. And we will talk about that more in future programs. But I think it's such a cool program. It is to help high school age students learn how leadership works by showing them how the Minnesota state government works. They come in, we go to the Capitol, and we are a mock legislature for that week.
But I will say, this isn't just a camp if you're interested in politics. It's really not, and I want to stress that because a lot of the times I talk to students and talk to people, and I think they'd love it, but then they say, oh, I'm not into politics, that's not my thing. But the thing is, it's so much more than that, and even if you don't like politics, like honestly, I don't like politics. Honestly, who likes politics? But it's important to be...
But no, I get it.
You need to be informed, and there's so many more things that are happening. Like, I will probably be speaking on the pro-life movement. We're probably going to have lots of different panels. Moses will be there. He'll probably talk about messaging and media and how you should...
We're going to have a big worldview component.
Yes, and we have Jonathan Woodyard speaking on that. He's phenomenal. He's going to be our worldview speaker. So we have different breakout sessions.
And more speakers to be announced, incling some that you will recognize.
Yes, so we have so much planned, and I've been involved for the past 3 years, I think, and it's just amazing to see. One of the best things about it, I think, is just there's so many like-minded people. Like, if you are a teen and you go to a homeschool co-op, you're probably surrounded by some like-minded people, but your avenue and your streams are probably pretty small. This really just expands it. And these friends you make at LEAD are friends you're going to make for a lifetime. Our producer, Jack Bittner, actually was a student when I was helping to be one of the counselors for LEAD. Yeah. And it was great meeting him. And then years later, we needed a video producer, and I knew that he did video production because of that. And we reached out to him, and we're still friends to this day. So we love that. The connections are amazing. So definitely check it out. We'll have the link on the screen here. You can go to leadminnesota.org.com.
Leadminnesota.org.
Leadminnesota.org. And you should definitely check it out. At some point, we'll have Patience Griswold, who is the program coordinator, on to talk about it further. But I can't speak highly enough of it. It's a great program. Otherwise, we also had an article published in the Star Tribune, right, Moses?
Oh, yes.
We should talk about that.
I forgot. That was huge. So cool. So Renee worked with Professor Teresa Collette of the University of St. Thomas to write this brief, which was then joined in by Vice President Mike Pence and other pro-life organizations around the country. So that was submitted to the Supreme Court, which is just amazing in itself. And so we talked about that. And then what Renee did then is she wrote a short 700-word article basically outlining the arguments made in the brief. That abortion, we didn't focus on the right to life because we knew that other people were focusing on that. We wanted to focus on the negative societal implications of abortion. For example, how abortion makes it easier for sex predators to cover up the evidence of their crime, essentially. Just the evidence is clear. Most teen pregnancies are the result of an adult man being with a teen girl. Those are the statistics. And when that's the case, those adult men are very frequently involved in procuring an abortion. So they're covering up the statutory rape that's going on by using the abortion industry. And the abortion industry is, of course, complicit in that.
Yeah, and you know what is disgusting, Moses? I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but a few years ago, Live Action went undercover to expose this. In Planned Parenthood,
right.
They had people just role-playing as pimps and girls role-playing as underage victims, like 12, 13, 14 years old. And it was terrible, the footage. I mean, these men would say, oh, like, she's underage, but I just really need her to get an abortion. And these Planned Parenthood officials would say, oh, well, you know, I can't help you if you tell me that she's under this age, but if you tell me she's over this age, we can give you an abortion and no questions asked. Like, I won't report anything because she'll be over the age. So just let me tell you, make sure you do it this way. And they would help them with these loopholes, and they refused to report these pimps, which is just terrible. I mean, the fact that Planned Parenthood will stand with sex traffickers and not underage women shows that they're not pro-women.
Horrifying.
They are not pro-women at all, and women deserve so much better than Planned Parenthood.
Yes. So we published that in the Star Tribune, and that is our state's biggest newspaper. It's actually, I think, the 6th biggest newspaper in the country by circulation, which is weird. So this newspaper goes out to a lot of different houses in Minnesota, and we're bringing the fight to the people in the sense by showing through these reasoned arguments by two very respected lawyers that this is not just, there's so many aspects, so many reasons why abortion is wrong, not just for individual people, but for our society as a whole. So last thing I want to talk about before we get into our more current events portion is next week, we are having the Minnesota Leadership Forum, which is going to be so cool.
Our first ever annual event of its kind.
Our first ever gubernatorial debate period.
Yeah.
Yeah, so neat. So we're going to have all the major conservative candidates for governor. We're going to be at Providence Academy in Plymouth, Minnesota. Tickets at this point are still available, mnforum.org.
They're selling out, though. We have barely any left.
We are almost sold out. Some seats are going to open up as we redistribute VIP seats. So by the time you watch this, seats will still be available unless something happens. But I hope that by the time you see this, seats are still available. So go to mnforum.org. Tickets are cheap, $20 to $25, depending on where you want to sit.
Moses and I will be there. We're super excited to talk to you guys.
Yes.
Don't be shy. We'd love to just talk about things we talk about on the podcast or just get to know you guys.
Absolutely.
It's always great to meet you in person. I mean,
we'd love to meet anybody who is a podcast fan. Just come up to one of us. You'll see us there. And so that's a really exciting event because we're coming into a point. I believe the caucus process starts in February. So all these conservative candidates are going to they're in the stage where they're asking for support from individuals as we approach the process, and basically the candidates with the most supporters and the most vocal supporters are going to have that advantage through the caucus participation process. So just to give you a heads up of who those candidates are, we have in alphabetical order Senator Michelle Benson, who's in the Minnesota Senate, and she serves on the, I believe, Health and Human Services Committee. I'm not sure about that. She's been a great pro-life advocate. Senator Paul Gazelka, who is the former Senate Majority Leader, another great pro-life advocate. In fact, all of the candidates are strongly pro-life, which is a huge blessing and better than we've seen in Minnesota in the past. Senator Paul Gazelka, and then we have Dr. Scott Jensen, who has received a lot of attention. His campaign has received a lot of attention for pushing back against some of the COVID overreach. So there's some buzz around his campaign. Excited to see him in person. Then we have Mayor Mike Murphy of Lexington, Minnesota, and we added him later to the debate schedule because we were hearing from activists on the ground that he was building support. So we're excited to see how he performs. And then finally, Dr. Neil Shaw. Dr. Shaw is another doctor who's got into the race, and partly he's also pushing back against the COVID-19 mentality that the medical establishment is in. So we have a lot of great candidates. December 15th, get tickets at mnforum.org. It will also be live streamed on our ally Alpha News. They're our co-sponsor here. They'll be live streaming the event on video, and then also our other co-sponsor is AM 1280 The Patriot, which is a huge radio station in this area, and they will be broadcasting live on the radio.
And I'll be broadcasting live on our Instagram as well, so that'll be good.
Yes, so that'll be lots of different ways. I think the best way is going to be to just get tickets because it's going to be an incredible event.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
in this
so
palatial
excited.
theater in Plymouth, Minnesota, this massive, beautiful complex at Providence Academy.
And I also just love being around people that think similarly because, I mean, it's so easy to get divided over, oh, you think this thing on this issue, and I think this thing, but in the end, it's amazing to be surrounded by Minnesotans who really care about these issues and care about our freedom and are invested in the next generation and how who's going to be governor, because really it has great implications for Roe v. Wade in our state, which we will talk about later.
Yes.
So very excited for that event. Definitely come say hi to us if you see us there.
And I forgot one thing. This event is moderated by none other than award-winning broadcaster Hugh Hewitt, which is so exciting. Honestly, like I told my mom that, and she's like, "Are you serious?"
Is she coming?
My mom? I'm not sure.
That would be so fun to see her. I don't think I've met her.
I don't think she will. My mom is a wonderful person, but she lives in Wisconsin, and so she doesn't care. She loves my job and what I'm doing, but she doesn't care super much about the Minnesota governor's race.
It's so funny, though. When I was live streaming your speech at the pro-life rally, she was like, "Whoa, go Moses!"
Aw, that's sweet.
And she kept doing really good comments. It was great.
Aw, that's nice.
I love family support. Like, my family is probably they're probably my biggest fans. I have this video of my baby brother, Matthew, who's 4 years old.
The cutest.
He's so cute. Oh, my goodness. He dances to one of our recent promo videos for the podcast. We have a bunch of music in it. And he just dances to it, and it's so cute. So maybe at some point we need to share an exclusive clip of that.
An exclusive clip of Matthew, who is very cute.
Our youngest fan.
Excellent content. Yeah. Probably better than anything we're saying. But with that said, we need to talk about a little bit more about what happened last week. We need to talk about some of the good things and the bad things that came out last week. Yeah. And I think there's one thing that really stood out to me, Grace, and to other people, that really showed where the pro-abortion movement is, the dark place that they're at. So can you tell us more about that? Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the negative stuff first, and then we'll end on a positive note, because talking about abortion, it can really drag you down sometimes. But this is an argument you hear all the time from people that are pro-abortion. You hear the argument that no one's really pro-abortion, they're just pro-choice. No one actually celebrates abortion. No one wants to get an abortion. Right. Women that get abortions, it's very rare, first of all, and it's just not something that anyone actually wants to get. Well, that could not be farther from the truth, and that's what we saw this week at the Supreme Court. We're going to roll this clip in a moment. First, I'm going to describe the scene to you for those of you that are listening on one of our platforms. You're going to see, if you're watching online, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see this banner, "We are taking abortion pills forever," being held up by two women. They're right in front of the steps of the Supreme Court, and there's 4 women in front that have abortion pills in their hand. Let's go ahead and roll that clip. All right, so right there, first of all, tragic, Moses. Yeah. I mean, it is devastating and just horrific that there are these women in front of the Supreme Court killing their children, smiling and laughing about it. as you could see, there were at least 4 women there who were taking those pills, and all of these women are cheering, abortion pills forever. We are taking abortion pills forever. And this was done by none other than Shout Your Abortion, which
there you go.
I think I'm blocked from them on their Instagram,
Oh, really?
actually. Yeah. And I don't think
I've done something right.
I don't think I've ever commented on one of their posts. I think they just blocked me.
Wow.
So
you must be on the list.
I must
the
be on the
pro-life
list.
activist list.
So I just want to read something from their website, because this is just an absolutely satanic group. They say that abortion is normal. Our stories are ours to tell. This is not a debate. They seek to create space for others to talk about abortion in their own terms at community events, arts, and media all over the country.
Yeah.
And their whole goal is literally to shout their abortion.
Yeah.
And so on their website, they talk about how Dobbs v. Jackson is going to hurt women, and how this is just a terrible moment. And they have this like light up image going on the Supreme Court that says abortion pills forever. Like, they can broadcast their message onto the steps of the Supreme Court, which
some
also
projector. Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. But they also Students for Life has this amazing one that's like, we are the pro-life generation, we are the post-Roe generation. They also had that lighting it up.
Mm-hmm.
But they have this part on their website which is just absolutely terrible. It's called The Good News. And underneath it says, abortion pills are safe, effective, and widely available online. In fact, you can now order pills to have on hand before you're even pregnant. The good news, first of all, they're not safe. They say that they're safe, effective. They're not safe at all, because a child dies every single time. They're not even safe for women, in fact, because oftentimes women will start hemorrhaging, which is losing lots of blood, and they'll have to be hospitalized for this. Women should not be taking abortion pills, period, but they should not be taking them in their own homes, in their own bathrooms, in their own college campuses. It's so unsafe.
Yeah.
And it's just disgusting to me. And there's a lot that I could say, but Moses, I want to let you have a word, even though you're a man, even though you have no uterus. No uterus, no opinion, as we say. But it's disgusting, and it shows... One, they're pretty desperate. On their website, they say that it's very likely that Roe v. Wade will be overturned, but they say that's no worry, because we're still going to be taking abortion pills. We're still going to be taking them forever, even if it's illegal. Yeah.
So that is going to be one of the next battles when Roe v. Wade, not if, when Roe v. Wade is overturned. There will be the battle over abortion pills coming through the mail is going to be one of the big battles. I mean, in fact, we're fighting it now. Yeah. I just want to say that if you know anyone who is considering an abortion, and we've said this before, but it's a 2-pill sequence, and when you take the first pill, there is a chance still of reversing that abortion. And so you can go to abortionpillreversal.com or call... go ahead.
Yeah, 877-558-0333.
Yes, and that is just so important to get that out there, because that website has been, I think Google has banned them from advertising.
Same with Live Action, who ran abortion pill reversal ads. We did a podcast episode on that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's just so important to remember that making that decision is not necessarily final. There are babies alive today, many babies, hundreds of babies who have because their moms chose to go a different direction. Yeah. And now I want to share regarding this, regarding what these poor girls did, these poor young women. Our CEO John Helberger, who was at on the steps of the Supreme Court while this was all going on. So he wrote this in our weekly wrap last week, which I thought was just so good. So there was just this great divide. There was literally a physical barricade, a metal barricade.
Yeah, I heard that from multiple people.
Yeah, between
the people on the pro-abortion side were just, it was so weird because they were pretty quiet. They were dejected. There weren't that many of them. They were majorly outnumbered. Yeah. And the people on the pro-life side, obviously speaking the truth in love, but so enthusiastic, Moses. Yeah. It's almost like they know that they've already lost. Yeah. It's almost like everyone knows the pro-life generation is winning. I mean, It's in all the headlines, right? Like, New York Times can't ignore it. Washington Post can't ignore it. We are overturning Roe versus Wade. This is the post-Roe generation, and it's an amazing thing. But sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, no. What you're saying is absolutely right. So there was a physical divide and also a serious spiritual and emotional divide So John writes, "It seemed to me that this reflected a great divide between a culture that celebrates life and a culture that glorifies and boasts of death. Nothing could underscore this contrast more starkly than a horribly sad thing that happened on the pro-abortion side of the fence. 3 young women took abortion pills in front of a cheering pro-abortion crowd right on the steps of the Supreme Court as the justices heard oral arguments inside. My first thought was, of course, to pray for these girls who have been deeply wounded by a culture that has taught them that this is an acceptable, even a good thing to do, as Grace has been alluding to. My second thought was a question: what has caused America to become a place where young women are encouraged by cheering crowds to take an abortion pill that would kill their baby and potentially cause them great harm as well? In a word, Roe v. Wade. This is what Roe has made us." And then another thought occurred to me. What if we are about to turn a corner? What if the days in which abortion is publicly celebrated and glorified on the steps of the Supreme Court are close to being over? What a blessing from God that would be. And I just had to go amen to what John was saying there. I think, the idea, like, this would have been inconceivable in previous generations for pro-abortion protesters to be on the step of the Supreme Court glorifying this process. And I watched the video. It's so sad. These girls, you can tell they're nervous. You can tell they're unhappy. And they're angry. They've obviously been hurt by to come to this place. They've been hurt in their lives to think that this is an acceptable thing to do. And there they are, and they're taking these pills as the crowd cheers. It's just horrifying.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. And I don't know, I just want to talk briefly also, kind of building off of this. A lot of people are saying, well, we can't overturn Roe because if we did that, it would have societal implications. We don't have a plan for government-funded services for women, et cetera. And, of course, we've debunked that lie quite a bit on the podcast. There are federally qualified health centers that outnumber Planned Parenthood on a scale of 20-1, and they are all over the country in more places than Planned Parenthood and offer more services with the exception of abortion, of course. I want to read this tweet that Grant May posted. He used to work for Teen Pact, and it was very, very good. He said, "Imagine stopping the Allied forces before they liberated a concentration camp in 1945, shouting, 'Wait, what's your plan to provide government-funded services for the prisoners? Are you really pro-life, or are you just anti-gas chamber?'"
Wow.
He says, "That's how some of y'all are sounding right now. We can have the discussion about how many taxpayer-funded social services we provide, but we should not delay saving lives until we figure out how Uncle Sam will care for everyone from womb to tomb. Let's stop the womb from being a tomb. So that's so good, I think. And even with slavery, you can make the same argument. I mean, why would we stop fighting evil simply because we don't have a perfect solution?
Right.
Like, the solution is to end this evil and to keep pressing onwards and to, keep fighting for resources for women. Because, of course, you're never going to have a perfect society where everything is absolutely perfect, but it would be so much better to save lives than to just wait and say, oh, wait, what about this plan? What about this? What about how the adoption process isn't absolutely perfect? So I thought that was amazing, and when I saw that, I knew I had to share it on the podcast.
Yes, that's so good. I think some people are gonna, not listeners of this podcast, but some people just reject the comparison to the Holocaust. They're like, oh, that's too extreme, so extreme. And yet, what else do you compare it to? It is a genocide. And we've lost more people in this genocide than any other genocide in history, in the history of the world. Right. And it's a genocide not based on race, not based on ethnicity or whatever qualifiers, but based on just simple age, location, and level of development. Those are the ways in which our culture has made it acceptable to prey on the unborn. So I want to talk about the oral arguments of the Dobbs v. Jackson case. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. So this was an interesting case. I was surprised that the Supreme Court took it up. We've discussed it on the podcast. Again, this is the Supreme Court is taking up a challenge to a Mississippi law in which abortion is regulated at 15 weeks. So that was what the court was taking up. They're trying to narrowly discuss whether that ban was constitutional. Now, it's surprising for them to take it up in the first place because under the current jurisprudence, of the Roe v. Wade case and then Planned Parenthood v. Casey, the Roe v. Wade has set the viability line at 24 weeks, and that is, in our current society, that is the constitutional justification for abortion, grounded in the quote-unquote penumbras and emanations from the 14th Amendment. So, crazy. There's no constitutional basis. Very interestingly, no one in the arguments, the recording of the oral arguments is available, so you can actually hear the justices speaking and talking to and asking questions of the Mississippi team, and then various other attorneys, including the Solicitor General of the United States, who is defending the abortion laws for the Biden administration. So various justices asked different questions, and it's important to be cautious about what the justices are asking and whether that and what that suggests. So none of the so we're currently in a state where the Supreme Court is as a conservative court. There are 6 conservative justices: Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Alito, Justice Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Gorsuch, and Justice Barrett. And then only 3 liberal justices: Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Breyer. So there's a really good conservative majority. We love to see that. Now, much of the focus has been on the Chief Justice. Chief Justice Roberts has shown a desire to be a consensus builder. And it's very important to him to maintain the respectability of the court. He does not want, none of the justices want the court to be partisan in the sense that in a party political sense. But some of the justices, for example, Justice Thomas has openly called for the abolition of Roe v. Wade, for which God bless him. None of the other justices have actually done that. And in fact, all of the justices who are currently on the court have, in their Senate confirmation hearings, have referred to Roe as settled law, and many of them are very reluctant to overturn Roe v. Wade. So a lot of the question a lot of the commentary on the Dobbs case and the oral arguments we heard last week are focusing on what the Chief Justice will do. If he votes against this, then there could still be a majority to dismiss Roe v. Wade, because Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, that's still 5 justices. That's a 5-4 majority on the court. If the Chief Justice joins the opinion, if he votes to uphold the Mississippi law, then a couple things could happen. So first of all, the arguments for the current state of things against the Mississippi law, advanced by the Solicitor General and advanced by Jackson Women's Center, the abortion clinic in Mississippi that was challenging this law, their arguments left the court no opportunity to uphold this law without overturning Roe v. Wade, as you follow me. So they're basically saying, no, you have to reject this law, because if you accept this law, you can't let the Roe and Casey precedents stand. You're literally completely changing the jurisprudence of this country. And some people are saying that was a dumb move. Like, a lot of abortions, most abortions take place before 15 weeks, which is the Mississippi standard. So a lot of people are saying, well, why doesn't the pro-abortion movement concede that we're in a place where a majority of Americans, 53%, support a 15-week abortion ban. A majority of justices on the Supreme Court appear to support a 15-week abortion ban, or a even more restrictive ban.
I think it's because they know if they concede ground here, we're going to keep pushing and pushing until we absolutely abolish abortion.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But this tactic may have brought that result about sooner, because it may be, it does appear that Chief Justice Roberts wants to uphold the Mississippi law without overturning Casey and Roe. So if being the Chief Justice, he has the ability, if he joins the majority, and it looks like the majority will be in favor of the Mississippi law, we hope and pray. If he joins the majority, then he can then write the opinion himself. He assigns who writes the opinion if he's in the majority. The most senior justice on each side decides who writes the dissenting opinion and who writes the majority opinion, and then there are concurring opinions, and it's all more complex. And I'm not a lawyer, so take all this with a grain of salt. But I'm going based on a lot of this is based on the commentary from lawyers at National Review magazine, which has been a great asset. So Chief Justice Roberts could then take the opportunity to write that opinion and write it in such a way that would uphold Roe and Casey, but instead of the 24-week viability line, he would push that back to a 15-week line. Now, 15 weeks is completely arbitrary. It's even more arbitrary than viability. So that would stand on shaky ground, I think, legally. But that would be a way that the court could move forward while preserving Roe v. Wade and Casey. Now, and the Chief Justice, you could say, may have the power to do that. Now, it's also possible that he will. So the justices have already voted. So they met in conference committee, I think. Conference committee. They call it conference. On Friday, and secretly they took votes.
We just won't know until early summer.
We won't know until next summer because that is how long the process of writing and editing the opinions will take. So we don't know which way the justices voted. They're also able to change their vote throughout the process.
I did not know that.
Yes, yep. So nothing is binding until the final opinions are released.
Wow. Okay.
So we could see. So we don't know. I think we can say with a fair amount of certainty that the direction of the court is, just taking up this case and just the way the oral arguments went, we can say with some amount of certainty that the court is turning against the Roe v. Wade standard by which it is impossible, unconstitutional for states to regulate abortion before the age of viability defined at 24 weeks. So we're looking at it. Grace is just smiling like a hungry cat right now. Like
I don't like that analogy, but
like a
pro-life activist.
Well, smiling like a pro-life activist, but also it just seems
there are so many trigger states. They have post-Roe laws in place.
That's true.
If we abolish Roe at the national level, then suddenly multiple states become absolutely 100% pro-life with no exception, which unfortunately means Minnesota has the danger of becoming an abortion mecca, meaning a lot of our border states that are much more conservative than us will come here to try to obtain abortions, which means our role in this is crucial. But the reason I'm smiling is because we already have a plan to abolish Roe at Minnesota Family Council.
We do.
We will be drafting legislation. Moses and I are drafting legislation.
And we have even more secret plans that will become public in the future.
Absolutely. But that's why I'm smiling is we're really at a crucial moment in history, and even if they decide to uphold the Roe v. Wade, but they still bump it back to about 15 weeks, that is still a huge win for the pro-life movement because we are going to save so many lives. I mean, I think we're in like the 100 and something day in Texas of babies being saved in Texas, which is amazing. I mean, I think it's over 100 babies every day. I think that's the number, which is just insane, and it makes me so happy because I feel like, I mean, I can't say I've been fighting for this my whole life because I really only got involved in this maybe 6 years ago, truly involved in it.
So when you were 14?
Yeah, I feel like I got involved in high school. Well,
that's pretty much all of your, before people are 14, they're not really fighting for anything. They're just being kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I more became active around freshman or sophomore year in high school, but it truly is like, it is a pivotal moment, and I am so excited to tell my grandkids, like, I fought this. It's like slavery, like I want to be the one I want to be on the right side of history, not just for being on the right side of history, but I want to be able to say, like, I opposed this great evil when it wasn't popular to do so. And what did we do? We went and won. We went and fought for the voiceless because they didn't have a voice. And now we live in a culture that preserves life. So I really think our future is bright. And people will say, no, this isn't the post-Roe generation. No, life isn't winning. Well, why then is the pro-abortion side so scared? Why do they feel the need to take abortion pills outside of the Supreme Court? Why are they so quiet?
Yeah.
They know that they're losing.
And I think one thing that's really interesting is if you look at the polling data, the nation remains very divided about abortion.
Yeah.
For sure. And the nation essentially remains just about as divided. In fact, the nation is more pro-life now than it was in 1973 when Roe v. Wade was decided. There are more people opposed to abortion now than there were then, which is kind of crazy in its own right. Now, after 40 years of legal abortion.
The reason is because we have a lot more resources now. I mean, obviously, medical technology, but also education, live actions work, educating the general public on this is what an abortion is. Here's a video, an animated video of what it actually does to the child.
Right.
Their work and the work of other pro-life organizations like ourselves here in Minnesota, right,
Yep.
we've been spreading the truth, and people are suddenly aware, because I think before a lot of people didn't even know what abortion was. They didn't know the facts about fetal development, and I think it's easy to support a cause that you haven't truly researched. I mean, before, when I was pro-life, but I didn't really do much about it and talk much about it, I hadn't actually researched it. I kind of knew why I was pro-life, but I didn't truly know all of the facts. And when I started researching, I couldn't stop. I kept going and getting into this, I don't want to say dark hole, but like this light hole, I guess, of finding all these facts and truths. And I think the more that we educate people, the more that we're going to see this continue to change, because there's been videos shown of like street interviews, like, hey, what's your opinion on abortion? They're like, oh, I'm absolutely for it.
Right.
And then they'll watch a video of what an abortion is, an animated video, and they say no one should be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So hearts and minds are changing.
Hearts and minds. And one thing that's interesting is, like, we bash Generation Z a lot on this podcast, but and Generation Z, as we've discussed, is much more likely to accept ideas about sexuality that are crazy and that are just. What
are your pronouns?
Yeah, exactly.
Have I been calling by the wrong pronouns this entire time?
Yeah. So, my pronouns are leave me alone.
My pronouns are she/her.
No, that's not funny, because it's only funny if you have weird ones.
That's true. Okay, whatever.
so as we say, Generation Z they have some stuff that they need to work out, but Generation Z is just as likely or more likely to be pro-life as Generation Y, the millennials, and Generation X, people born in the early 80s, and the boomers. So Generation Z is just as pro-life or more pro-life, even though they're out there demonstrating for climate change and racial justice and crazy, weird.
Because that's what's trendy. That's the thing.
Well, yeah. So I think one thing that's for our advantage is that the Gen Z is compassionate. And sometimes that compassion is misplaced and misguided. But in other cases, that compassion leads them to recognize the humanity of the unborn. And that's why Grace is totally correct that we are living in the post-Roe generation. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's historical. We're going to have...
Yeah.
Our kids will read textbooks about this and about this summer. And it's going to be seen as pivotal. I mean, Renee Carlson's name will probably be in there.
Wow, that is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, to recap here, we do not know what the court is doing. Everything could change between now and next June. And we could see a disappointing result. But it does seem clear.
Our future is still bright, though.
Yeah. The court taking up this abortion case. Yeah. They have not even taken up a serious abortion case since 1992.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're doing so now is evidence that the tide is changing. It's amazing to see that. Those are my last words on that. What do you think, Grace? What's your conclusion here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the conclusion is now more than ever, each of you listening to this podcast right now, you need to know why you believe what you believe. You need to know why you are pro-life and be able to defend that, because if we stay silent, no one will stand up. And so keep on listening to this podcast, because we talk about it all the time. We have exclusive episodes launching over Christmas break and going into January about they're specifically on pro-abortion arguments and how you can debunk them in day-to-day life. We filmed two parts because there were just so many that I wanted to cover, and that's going to be a really helpful resource for you all. So educate yourself. I mean, I think Ben Carson said this, and he really impacted me as a child. He once said, like, you should dedicate just 1 hour every single day to learning about something you're passionate about. And then by the time you're even 2 years into practicing this, you're going to know so much about this topic. And it doesn't even have to be the same topic. But that is what I did when I heard him say that. I said, okay, what am something I'm passionate about? Okay, I'm really passionate about the pro-life movement. And I started researching it, sometimes for more than an hour a day. And you have this huge database. If you even do it for 5 minutes, it doesn't have to be a whole hour, because I know we're busy. But I would just encourage you to educate yourselves. Just know the facts so that you can stand for truth. That's what we aim to do here on the podcast. And if you're a part of Gen Z and you're feeling a little bit lost and you feel like those around you just aren't understanding, feel free to either reach out to me on Instagram and I would love to have a conversation with you, or you can talk to your school. I'd love to come in and give a pro-life presentation. I'm doing that today, and I love talking with Gen Z just about how you can get involved, why you should care, if you're a Christian, you must be pro-life, and why you should not be just personally pro-life. That's just inconsistent. So Minnesota Family Council is here for you. We're here to serve you in any way we possibly can, and we're so grateful that you're tuning into this podcast. Keep on fighting for life. This has been the Family Beacon Podcast. I'm Grace Evans, and this is Moses Bratchard. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to or watching this episode of the Family Beacon Podcast from Minnesota Family Council. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you're up to date on life, family, and religious freedom. You can follow us on Instagram at MN Family Council and subscribe to us on YouTube to watch our content. Get the facts, stand for truth.